sun is numb, the Keurig's clean, your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi screen. Ponzi screen, Ponzi screen, because it's just something to do.
The greatest Ponzi schemer that has ever been known. We have to celebrate that he's a champion of something. We are referring to Mr. Madoff.
Bernard Madoff.
Bernard, yeah.
The OG Bernie, the bad Bernie.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders' evil twin.
Yeah.
If Bernie had made a couple other different choices at the University of Chicago, then maybe he chose a different major, then he would be...
So Bernie Madoff, right? 81 years old.
So he's 81 years old.
Living in jail.
Living in prison. He's been there for 10 years.
Doing finger push-ups, doing squats, doing everything you need to do to stay hardy and fit and limber.
Yeah.
This guy, it's important to remember, he defrauded investors of $19 billion.
Woo!
One
$19
man.
billion.
One man. We talk about numbers a lot, about BlackRock controls $7 trillion, and that doesn't mean we're rich. But this is one person.
Yeah, just one guy.
This is just one guy. So he, his lawyer said that he has chronic kidney failure that has progressed to end-stage renal disease, which I think that sounds fake. That's not a real disease.
Isn't this just what we call being 81?
I think it's just, yeah. And he's got other conditions, including heart disease, high blood pressure. Well, of course, he's in prison. Esophageal reflux, insomnia, shortness of breath, back pain, itching, leg cramps, and anxiety. Oh, and anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, nausea, upset stomach, diarrhea, Pepto-Bismol. He's every what is it called? Symptom. He's every symptom.
He has every
that
symptom.
your medication says might happen. in addition to curing your,
he just has all the side effects.
Yeah, he's a side effect. That's what Bernie Madoff is.
This should be on the list of, if you are a customer of GeoCorp. These symptoms might occur to you while
high blood pressure,
in one of our
esophageal
cells.
reflux, insomnia. Okay, so cue a picture of grandparents playing with their grandchildren, barbecuing, kayaking or something like that. Then you're just reading off Mr. Madoff has esophageal reflux, insomnia, shortness of breath, chronic kidney failure, other conditions including heart disease, back pain, itching, leg cramps, and anxiety.
Well, you can deal with the insomnia with some Benadryl, and you can deal with the acid reflux with a little bit of Tums.
Yeah.
So these are things you can deal with the I'm sure there's a commissary.
Are you a Tums boy?
I can't get enough,
dude. I Tums every night.
Of course, Gabe is. Of course, Gabe. I am. Well, also, absolutely no way I'm not putting some cool hard rock underneath when you're reading
the side effects.
yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
Side effects of Flonase include.
Yeah.
So do we let this man out? Do we let him out? Does he live in house arrest and spend his last days in a palatial chateau with an ankle bracelet on, kind of like Pol Pot did in Cambodia?
So he let's remember what he did.
Yes.
So
let me remind me exactly how this went down.
So investors lost $19 billion in principal when, this is from Investment News, when Mr. Madoff's securities firm collapsed in December 2008. His victims included thousands of wealthy investors. Okay, kind of a wash morally.
Sure.
Right? Jewish charities, hurtful. Personally hurtful.
Yeah, not a mensch.
Not a mensch.
Not a mensch.
If I were a Madoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Were these charities that were sending barbed wire to the settlements?
Yeah, this is
That's a good question.
Yeah, Jewish charities were the National Jewish Republican Caucus or something like that.
Are these Jewish charities are these Israeli charities?
It's just like Sabra hummus. He's just ripping. He's just fleecing Sabra's competitors, and that's why Sabra's in every bodega, because Bernie Madoff killed the competition. No, it's celebrities and retirees. Really the one that we should feel bad for is the retirees. We don't know about we'd like to think that the charities are nice, but who knows these days. So, but then somebody said he showed no remorse whatsoever for what he did, so why should we? Mr. Madoff built a reputation over 3 decades as a brilliant stock picker who delivered uncannily steady returns in good markets and bad. This is when the classic saying, if it's too good to be true, it is.
Mm-hmm.
But his results were largely fictitious, and he told his family in December 2009 that the business was all just one big lie. Mr. Madoff's 2 sons turned him into the Federal Bureau of Investigations. One of his sons later committed suicide.
Whoa!
While the other died of cancer.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man. This is a real back and forth with me. First of all, I guess I'm a little bit impressed and also surprised that his sons were like, I'm putting you in jail, Dad. Like they were straight up like, you're bad. You can't do this anymore.
Well, they also, I mean, from the movie, they had to cover their own asses, and they might not have known. Honestly, I mean, there is some willful ignorance, but you hear all these stories about people that marry serial killers, and then they have no idea that their husband was keeping children in the crawl space, or like,
yeah,
you know, the people right next to you are the ones that you don't even notice because there's this blindness, and so maybe they didn't know, but one of his sons killed himself because their entire social circle ostracized him after that. He was shunned, and then the other son, he gets cancer, you know, from bad vibes.
Yeah, he gets bad vibes cancer.
Bad vibes cancer. Yeah,
he had stage 4 bad vibes cancer. What was I going to ask?
Ponzi cancer.
And just to clarify, just because it's still difficult for me to wrap my head around sometimes, a Ponzi scheme is when you are a person who's like, I am looking for investors and I will invest your money, but they never actually invest the money. They just get a bunch of people's money and then slowly trickle it back to them.
The Ponzi scheme, a form of fraud in which belief in the success of a non-existent enterprise is fostered by the payment of quick returns to the first investors from money invested by later investors.
That's right.
Yes.
There's no underlying thing to invest in.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, the investment is more people being duped into the investment.
This city was built on a dream,
yes.
like Rome.
And the entire point of it is that there can really only be like 1 or 2 or 3 people at the very top, because if there was any more, then there wouldn't be enough money for them to like really profit off of it.
Yeah, and also there can only be really a couple, like tops 2 people, because you can't keep that scheme.
You can't lie to that
You
many
can't
people.
lie. Only one person can really lie to that many people.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to keep a secret, don't tell anyone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
2 is pushing it.
2 is really pushing it. Really
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Like, so I think that really, if you want to be a good Ponzi schemer, you can't tell anyone. Can't even tell your sons. And the most important financial asset that you have is your son. And you can't even tell your son.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. If 2 people know a secret, one of them better end up in a watery grave.
That's right. Yeah. Bottom of the East River, baby. Or the Hudson, if you really want to be cool about it.
All right, so let's do. How do we want to decide? Gabe, what do you say? Let him out. Also, he asked Mr. Trump, Mr. Donald Trump, for sentence to be commuted.
Look, he gets out because of course I believe in some sort of, you know, I'm not into punitive justice. I like restorative justice. But what should he do if he gets out? That's the thing.
Well, he's gonna die.
Do we
soon.
put him? Yes.
In theory, he's gonna die very soon too.
If he's not dead in 6 months,
should it be a peaceful death, or should he have to go on a world apology tour? Just get wheeled to every single one of his victims' houses to ask for forgiveness and to apologize.
Or they could.
They don't come to him. He's got to go to them. He's got to go. Because everyone hates traveling. It's like with stand-up. It's like, you know, I don't get paid to do the spot. I get paid to get to the gig.
Yeah.
I you know what? I think we can divide it up. So okay, we can maybe cautiously conservatively assume. Some of those people they defrauded were pensions and retirement funds, whatever. Okay, 7 days out of the week, 2 of those days, he's got to go back to jail. All right, so 2 of those days that counts for all of the retirement funds that he fucked over. The rest of the work week, though, he does what you guys are saying, where he does a uncomfortable Frank Abagnale, Catch Me If You Can situation, where he's basically has to go to every Google campus and every Facebook and for free, mind you. Yes, he is being transported there, but it's on coach, and he also is just being like, So this is what he has to explain what a Ponzi scheme is.
It's
to
always
everybody.
Coach.
Yeah, it's always
Sometimes
Coach.
it's Greyhound.
Yeah. He has to.
There's gonna be a bunch of like
man.
Google employees, like they're gonna see like an old Jewish man walking in and like, oh my god, are you a Holocaust survivor? Here to tell you. It's like, no, I'm Bernard Madoff. I'm here to tell you what a Ponzi scheme is and how to get away with it.
I think that would be. Wouldn't that be fantastic if you were like a college student and you're like, okay, you guys, here we are, poli sci 101 or economics 101. We technically have a very special guest for you. It's not Jordan Peele pretending to be in your film class. It's actually a guy who defrauded a ton of rich people. And I think that's the part where I am getting a little bit hung up, where it's just like, look, I'm not going to really frown on anybody who pulls a movie pass, on a bunch of rich people. It's like, it's sort of like, he's like, I just came here to watch the world burn. Like, yes, it was very selfish, but what was the end result of it,
I think that's a fair point. I'm usually, this is the thing that I like about like all of our Act 1s whenever it's someone who's defrauding rich people or defrauding companies, because it's like, good on you, man. Like,
cool.
you got a chunk, man. That's rad. You know what I mean? But like, we don't know, like, at least I didn't do the research to like see like who all of his victims are. But my only reason why I would say no is because he got sentenced to 150 years.
Oh my God, that was the sentence?
He got sentenced to 150 years and it's been 10.
Yeah.
And so it's like, look, if this were 40 years ago and he was in year 40 of his 150-year sentence, I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, he's like, everybody he's known is dead, and then he gets to go out and he gets to go work at a cash register at a supermarket.
Yeah.
Until he hangs himself.
Exactly. Like he would be like the Shawshank Redemption old man.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody has an excellent bit too about those kinds of prison sentences where they're so long that they might as well just have like an air of like kind of royalty to them. I can't remember who it is, but they're like, I sentence you to 900 years.
Yeah.
And you will always be sad. Like, it's like, yeah.
It's such like a 90s Disney villain.
Yeah, it's very Jafar kind of like.
I sense that Jafarness in you.
Yeah.
That was really,
You poor unfortunate souls. Like, it's, but I think, my knee-jerk reaction is like, no, you've been there for 10 years, but I mean, in this world we're creating, like, I get a little bit of this, I get a little bit of that.
He's only served, like 7% of his 150 years, 7.5%.
Yes.
Or something like that. So out of 6.66% actually is.
We're treating these Ponzi scheme architects with kids' gloves.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
man.
we need to really, clamp down on them.
Yeah.
You know what? I like it when you see in other countries where they just execute bankers that commit fraud.
Yeah.
6.6. Also, he's had 10 out of 150. No joke. 6.66%.
Whoa!
Oh, all
that's
right,
cool.
All right.
Also, I do. You're right, Gabe. There is every once in a while you do see like an international Reuters story where they're just like, and in the country of Turkmenistan, a man was pulled apart by his fingers and feet, or it's like. News in Slovenia.
You're like, dear God, what did this person do? Did they try to assassinate an archduke? Absolutely not. It was a Venmo fraud scheme.
Yeah.
And they brought and quartered this poor banker.
Yeah,
or
it's
accountant.
it's always very. It's like, damn, that was in Irkutsk, the risk board region that's adjacent to Japan and other parts of. And Irkutsk or Irkutsk,
Irkutsk and
Irkutsk, yeah.
Siberia.
It's the unlivable part of Russia.
But look, I think that as long as we're putting people on death row for violent crimes, I think that Bernie Madoff should be executed. I think that he should.
Oh yeah, throw him in the pile.
I think just it'd be a lot easier. This man is Top's gonna live another year. I think it would just be smarter. Let's just put him down. Let's just euthanize him. and I mean that as a way of just like that is almost more of a sense of dignity than anything.
Yeah.
It's just like this man should not he is an old man, okay? And clearly he seems to feel a little bit bad about what he did, and he defrauded $19 billion out of rich people, but he did it, and it's like, okay, well then let's just
David.
if we're gonna have capital punishments, then we should have capital punishment for everyone.
David,
you know?
look, sad music cue. All right, look, Bernie's not doing very good anymore. So we decided to put him down. We're going to give him a lot of treats. We're going to give him a nice big meal. We're going to take him to the doctor, give him lots of pets, and then have a nice little ceremony for him. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. And a nice little guillotine, and then I'll be it. And I'll
just a little one.
As a treat.
Yeah.
So next, we got two more little bits.
Love a little bit as a treat. Give it to me.
So the SEC recently charged an accountant. This is from Financial Advisor IQ with fleecing Amish and Mennonite communities.
This breaks my heart.
Pennsylvania.
This breaks my heart. The Amish are my favorites. I like a slow growth. Slow pour,
slower
bespoke.
than a bond. Yeah,
they are the bespoke cult. That's my jam, dude. People that churn butter, people that take buggies, no combustible engines. Can't get enough of the Amish.
Yeah,
and
back
Mennonites.
to 1860 for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm with you on that, man. Dude,
I mean, real talk. If a weird solar flare happens and like electricity grids get blown off, I mean, like I think the Amish are the kings after that. They're totally self-sustainable.
They are the low-tech external hard drive for civilization.
Yeah, they're an abacus.
Because once the solar flare takes out everything else we have, they're the only ones that still know how to raise barns by hand.
It's gonna be like the Amish and like isolated communities in the Amazon. You know, those are gonna be like the only people left, and they won't see each other for 1,000 years. You know?
The weird thing that you're bringing up now is that there is not in some fan fiction a scenario where the Mennonites meet the people in the Amazon, but in reality, in Belize.
That's right.
What?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, what? Thanks for the assist. Yes.
Here we go.
There are these Mennonites, and they traveled first to Canada from the Ukraine and Russia and Germany, and then they ended up in the U.S. They didn't like it there. They went to Mexico, didn't like it there, kept going to Belize, and now there are all these people that are in tropical Belize wearing traditional German peasant farmer clothing. And it's the one place where the Mennonites are converting brown and black people, Amerindians, and the descendants of Africans who are in Belize. And there's pictures of them online just wearing the hats,
amazing
with the German beards.
Just amazing.
You feel
Gorgeous.
bad for the Hasidic Jews for having to wear their big outfits in summer New York heat.
No short sleeves.
No short sleeves.
Oh my God.
Imagine having to wear a fucking scratchy wool shirt in the tropical rainforest. Like, yes,
way.
I am Amish, technically.
Yeah, luckily the Amish they were built. Their clothing is for farming to a degree. I mean, they still have They still have the buttons. But
did you guys see that video of the Amish men picking up a barn and moving it 150 feet across the field?
No.
There's a video of you guys. You guys need to look it up later.
Sounds like a strongman competition.
There was this one Amish farmer who wanted to move his barn, and they can't use any equipment or anything like that. So they just got all the men in the neighboring towns to come together. They lifted up the barn, and over the course of 15 minutes, they just moved it in like 4 acres across a field.
How big
to the
is
other
this
side.
barn?
It's like it was like the size of like a McMansion. It's like a big barn.
I guess it's a big barn. It's just a skeleton, I guess. So
it's just a frame.
Yeah, you don't have any cow in there.
No,
there's no hay in there.
Yeah,
they cleared everything out.
It's an empty barn.
Yeah, they took the shelves out of the drawers before they put them in the moving truck.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane. But I mean, also just like moving a barn like that. I mean, I'm sure they build them quite sturdily, but still, I just imagine just like the shaking. You know,
yeah, the shaking.
Yeah,
and I don't know how they got the video because it's an Amish community.
This is the biggest conspiracy of all. How do we even know about it?
Yeah, I saw the video of it and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like, who's taking the video of these astronauts stepping out of the lunar lander?
Yeah. Yes.
Who's doing that?
The third aspect.
Although realistically, probably just somebody on like one of the highways in Pennsylvania. Like, just like,
Reasonably
what
so.
the fuck are they? Wait,
Are
this
they
is Amish
moving
country.
a
Oh my
barn?
god, they're moving a barn. You know.
So what happened? What's this grift happening? How are my Amish and Mennonite friends being fleeced?
Yes.
So this guy, Philip Reel, who provided accounting services to the communities, allegedly developed an investment program and raised money for it by selling promissory notes to members of the communities. According to a press release from the SEC, a promissory note is like a a financial instrument that is used to do a thing, to do a transaction.
Is it just for people who don't fuck with electronics?
No.
It's like a real thing that like
It's a financial instrument that contains a written promise by one party to pay another party. It's an IOU.
it's an IOU.
It's essentially an IOU.
Look,
okay.
IOUs are legal,
They
legally
are?
binding. What do I need to do? I need to go to a notary of the public.
Assume, yeah.
And I say-
but also you don't need a notary public. If you like the weird thing about if you just say I'm gonna do this, then you guys agree on it, then you shake hands or cut your hands, and then you exchange blood or whatever and get the coronavirus. Like that's a contract right there.
That's as good as money, sir. Those are IOUs. You're a dead man. You're a dead man!
This is like Dumb and Dumber. Like you're gonna want to hold on to this one. This is a Ferrari. I owe you a Ferrari.
So Reel allegedly raised around $60 million over the course of close to a decade, promising to invest the money in loans to the community. He allegedly falsely claimed he would personally guarantee repayment with interest on the loan and require 2 co-signers on every loan, giving the investors a false sense of security. Additionally, Reel allegedly failed to inform investors about the financial troubles and debt of Trickling Springs Creamery, a dairy yeah, dude. A dairy business.
Okay, all right.
A
I
dairy
want ice
business
cream now.
a dairy business he owned and used to issue the promissory notes. So basically this guy was he's like the monorail but for the Amish, and his monorail was ice cream. Like he was just like promising these Amish people just like this new conflabbing invention that's going to change your life. It's called ice cream.
Which is new and conflabbing to the
Yeah.
Amish.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't know how to keep things cold,
Yeah.
let alone
Wait,
what ice cream is.
Yeah, you can keep things cold for more than 4 months out of the year in the winter, outside of winter. Like this is beautiful.
Okay, so if
So
the investor who just knows these Amish people, by the way, his collateral was an ice cream thing.
He was saying, give me money, I promise I will pay you back when my ice cream business when my ice cream business in the middle of rural Pennsylvania in the Amish community makes money. He's trying to make like an Amish Ben and Jerry's and some competitor. And
that could exist here in Brooklyn.
It could.
Yeah.
It could.
An Amish creamery.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
I'd mess with that.
Yeah, like $9 for a scoop or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
yeah.
totally would compete with Van Leeuwen down the street.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a
100%.
really big missed opportunity because not only is Gabe right, where the fact that like, if you told me, yes, this is actually how Amish people made ice cream, I'd be like, I don't trust the Amish with a lot of things, but I actually do trust it with dairy manufacturing and the
for
quality
sure.
of the milk and ice cream that they make. And then also, if you're an Amish person, you can't partake in a lot of electronic things or whatever. You place enough of these dang creameries in or around their communities, you stand to saturate you stand to be the corner of the market in ice cream in rural Pennsylvania. And maybe not make a ton of money, but like a reasonable profit,
Yeah, the thing is that he was too clever by half, and instead of saying I want to open up, I'm gonna use I know that this is a good idea according to my I assume that this guy's like a 31-year-old gentrifier or something like that, and he's like, I'm gonna open it up an ice cream shop for gentrifiers, but in Amish country, and they're gonna come here. It's like no, you got to open up an Amish themed ice cream shop in Brooklyn. That's what he should have done. And I guess he messed up, man.
So how did this guy get caught? What happened?
It doesn't. I don't think it says how he got caught. In late 2018, Reel allegedly diverted money to the dairy business from at least one investor against the investor's wishes. The creamery eventually filed for bankruptcy in December of 2019, and Rio wasn't able to pay back his investors.
What
a violation of federal securities laws.
Tisk Real.
So
Mr.
will he
Real.
get a life sentence?
He agreed to settle the charges. The settlement includes the return of an unspecified amount of money, plus interest and some sort of like injunctive relief, which basically means that they're going to force him to never sell ice cream again.
Yeah,
that's like presumably.
And you will marry my daughter and keep on my bloodline.
That's it just turns into like Midsummer or something.
And remind me, what was the initial amount of money that he got from them?
$60 million.
How do the Amish have $60 million?
Well, there's a lot of roadside tschotchkes.
Okay, you're right. There's a lot of whittling wares,
and they don't have those reoccurring expenses like your monthly Netflix subscrition.
yeah. It's just pure profit, baby.
Yeah. There's no Spotify Premium.
There's
for them.
no electric bill. No cell phone bill. Certainly.
No fax machine.
No fax machine.
No one's going to college.
Yeah, or if they are, it's like, this is the college of learning how to tend the sheep. That's it's a different type of college.
And it's like, okay, so I mean, like, they use money to trades for goods and services. Like, is there like an intra Amish like market? Like, is there like a commercial sector in the Amish community?
Rumspringa stuff when their teenagers
they go out
for a year.
They spend the year.
Dude, that's
where you blow money.
That's what you do. You got to be like an Airbnb in Manhattan or Brooklyn, and you're like, we will cater to your Amish needs or whatever creature comforts you might need while you are doing drugs and having sex for the first time.
That'd be cool.
That'd be
That's
a great
right.
market.
This reminds me, a couple years ago, there was a story of a predatory motorcycle gang that was getting all the Amish Rumspringer kids hooked on crystal and ecstasy.
That's right. They had a lot. There was a lot
Yeah.
of crank going around in the Amish community.
Because there's no moral hang-ups around doing these things because all of these things are equally bad.
Oh.
So using a cell phone is as bad as smoking crack.
Yeah, they don't
'Cause
know.
They're both
They're
just modern things.
They're like those birds like the beagle that Charles Darwin found on those islands where they would just be walking around and they weren't even afraid of humans. They're just like marijuana, fucking heroin, fentanyl, this cell phone. It's all the same, baby.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it's all
matter.
the same, and it's like and the community doesn't look upon it negatively until it's just that when you come back, you don't do any of that stuff. No cell phones, no crack,
Man,
no
that's
MDMA.
That's some good parenting advice.
No cell phones, no crack.
No
It
MDMA.
sounds like who's the guy who wore the big purple outfits who was very homophobic? The rapper.
Big purple outfits, homophobic.
He's very good. He has one name too, I believe. I'll think of it later.
You'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're going to move on to the next Act 1. The SEC warns investors of coronavirus investment scams.
Hell yeah.
So there's an investor alert that came out about fraudulent investment schemes touting solutions to the coronavirus outbreak.
Here's my strategy. You tell me what the next big plague fear is going to be, and that is where we start the scams.
Yeah.
What's the product for this? Bubonic plague. What's the scam product?
Okay.
You know, HIV around the world. What's the scam product?
We know somebody who will be able to
SARS scam product.
We know somebody who will be able to create a cure to the coronavirus that will be available at any child nursery that you want. It has to be set up on a slide, and you have to pay for childhood care. And you go down the slide, and the child goes through it, and the child becomes immune to the coronavirus.
I'm into that.
Yeah, and you just have to pay. It only costs one down payment of 20% of your net worth and all of your assets, plus $3 million, and that's per child has to invest that, and then they will be immune to the
Now that
coronavirus.
sounds like a lot of money up front, but what does peace of mind cost?
Thank you, and also like the coronavirus has already killed 600 people. You know how many people? Like
I think we're up to 900 now.
Right, 900 people. That's like a third of Asia.
And these are official. These are official Chinese government numbers, which means that it's probably double that.
Yeah, it's actually way higher, and they're not including the Uyghur Muslim population. You know what I mean? Like
Sure,
it could be really
because it's spreading through those concentration camps
Thank you.
like wildfire.
I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
First off, Cameron. Okay. Second off,
Is that a question or just a comment?
remind me what we were talking about because I was
Coronavirus.
completely tuning.
Because you were trying to think of Cameron.
I was trying to remember Cameron. Okay, we're talking about the coronavirus. I'm sorry.
Coronavirus scams. Here's a scam. The face masks that they're now selling don't really help.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, why would they help? They're just. I mean, I'm sure
What a great way to make money, though.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, have you walked by the pharmacy that's sort of adjacent to your house, Gabe?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're one of the big advertisements. Just not even big, but there's like a piece of paper that says we sell protective face masks, which is just like, you guys.
Yeah, but you have to wear goggles too.
Yeah.
You need to wear rubber gloves. You need to, basically you need a hazmat suit to survive.
Like self kind of
purifying air.
One of those things.
It's like when you turn your car's like ventilation system so it only recirculates air.
Cameron is a Cameron error.
Yeah, it's the Toyota Cameron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the regulator says it's learned of several internet promotions that claim products or services of publicly traded companies capable of preventing, detecting, or curing the virus, often disguised as research reports. So this new research report says that it can cure coronavirus, brought to you by Cialis or whatever. Such claims, especially when involving microcap stocks, are sometimes made as pump and dump schemes, according to the Investor Alert. So what this does is they'll say, "Hey guys, we got this thing, we got this cure to the coronavirus. Everyone throw in some money. We got this. This is going to happen." And then as soon as the stock appreciates as much as it can, then the owners of the stock sell it all off and make a bundle and then swindle everyone else over.
Yeah. Again, sort of like MoviePass.
Yeah.
It's weird.
There are really only 2 types of crimes: Ponzi schemes and MoviePass.
This reminds me of the father and son who had put money from our last episode.
Oh yeah. The Collins family, the Representative Collins.
Yeah, how they were putting money into was it a multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, this is some Elizabeth
treatment?
Holmes, Chris Collins, multiple sclerosis.
So these sort of snake oil, big pharma scams.
Yeah.
That's
exactly what it is.
It almost seems like kind of small pharma in a way, because Purdue wouldn't muddy its hands with this. They're like, we're too busy stealing insulin from people, but all these other little companies are just sort of like, I got the cure for coronavirus.
Yeah, like Lexapro is gonna do this. Really like small name pharmaceutical product that advertises on, only on HGTV. But like it isn't quite at ESPN. Isn't quite at ABC levels.
True TV sort of situation. Also, I got to give it out for all my snake oil salesmen out there. Not because it does anything, but more than anything else, it's just hard to get the oil out of a snake. So that is a product that you can't sell. It's not going to do anything, but it's like, look, I'm not going to try to get the oil out of a snake. It takes a lot of time, I
like that. What do we sell in the store? We've got avocado oil. We've got sunflower seed oil. We've got some canola, and right here, snake oil, baby.
Yeah,
coronavirus oil.
Yeah, you can make soap out of it, probably. Yeah.
So, anyways, guys, be on the lookout. It's pretty exciting stuff. It's going to be the investment opportunity of a lifetime, especially if you're in the Wuhan province. This will save your life.
Also,
this product is absolutely worth investing if you live in China. It will save your life. You need to invest in this product immediately. Any advertisement you see, click on it.
Yeah.
Immediately click on it.
China is a weird economy, and not like I know anything about it, but I do know that there's a large swath of chemists and bioengineers who like spend all day like just altering K2 ever so slightly, so it's a teeny little different drug that can be.
Yeah, it's called an analog.
Yeah, an analog.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like in a weird way, I almost don't. I believe in you, China, because I feel like you already have a lot of labs that are really good at chemistry and physics, or not physics, but biology. So yeah, you'll find it. You'll get it. Don't worry about it, China.
I'm rooting for. I got my flu vaccine shot, so
yeah.
I don't know if they work, but if I get sick, you guys know it's not the normal flu. It's definitely corona.
Yo, you know that shit's a scam. Whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyways, guys, this is
we're an anti-vax podcast now.
Oh my God, baby! You should have been in Portland, Oregon, during the 2012 voting season when they had a big kerfuffle on whether or not to put fluoride in the water.
Interesting.
Spoiler alert: they did not put it in. So yeah,
Really?
Welcome back,
Oh, my-
cavities.
brother. There's a whole bunch of stuff about Oregon that is not cool.
So today we're going to talk about something. We've talked about this before, but it's worth bringing up again. This is venture, not venture capital. This is private equity.
Yes.
Okay, which is different from venture capital. They're kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. Like if you remember from the last episode that we talked about private equity, basically right now what the SEC is trying to do, private equity is immensely outperforming registered funds. So if you remember, a registered fund is something that regular people have access to.
Yes.
Because of the securities laws that were implemented during the Great Depression. Basically, there are certain thresholds under which you can invest in a private fund that you have to meet, financial thresholds. So you can, like, if you have to have a minimum of $5 million.
That's right, the $5 million.
Yeah, and then you have to be making like $300K a year minimum, okay, to be able to invest in any private fund. Otherwise, it has to be a registered fund, like a mutual fund, an ETF, an IRA, like even like that could be going through your 401K or your IRA or some other retirement plan.
Okay, so that's private equity.
So private equity is a private fund. What do they invest in is the question, right? Like that is the weird thing about private equity is because it could be a fundraiser, it could be, but most of the time they're investing in companies. A private equity firm and a venture capital firm both invest in companies. Venture capital is what we think of when we think of a private firm giving a startup money.
Yes, that's what makes Silicon Valley the television show and the real life thing. That's where people have heard of those things.
Peter Thiel.
Yes.
He's a venture capitalist.
So
He's not a private equity boy.
Yes, correct. So
Peter Thiel is giving money to Palantir.
yes,
He's giving money to Facebook.
early investors.
Yeah,
Early
yeah.
investors.
These people are early investors. These are people who are like, oh yeah, I saw, like, Shark Tank is technically venture capital. Okay, you go watch Shark Tank. This person's like, I have this business idea where I'm going to have a cure for coronavirus by having 8-year-old children go down slides. And then they're like, brilliant idea. I'm going to give you $10 million. Venture capitals funded Google, Amazon, and Facebook before any of them turned to profits. I mean, like, these are Apple and Intel. These are all things that venture capital does. It is literally an adventure. Okay, so that's
a good way to think about it.
right? So venture, they embark on this quest. They have incredibly low success rates, but like 20% on average. But when they make money, they make an insane amount of money such that it is worth it for them to continue on this big losing streak. Imagine if like a Major League Baseball, like the designated hitter in an American League Baseball team who only hits home runs, but their batting average is 200.
Yeah.
That's exactly what venture capital is.
Edgar Martinez. That's of the Seattle Mariners.
So
yes.
Edgar Martinez only hits home runs.
He's always injured. He's not a very fast runner, but when he hits it, he hits those dingers, baby.
So, as somebody that doesn't have a lot of money, then to put money into any of the things that venture capitalists are aiming at would be foolhardy, because you would lose. Most of the time, you would lose.
Precisely.
That's
You can't keep up with the big boys.
That's why the SEC hasn't allowed for regular people to invest in them. It's because there's no liquidity. The liquidity means the ability to generate cash, like actually be able to give money immediately now, tangible money. Okay, like there is no guarantee of, first off, that it's going to be successful, but second off, that it's not going to be successful in a reasonable period of time for a regular person.
And it
Yeah.
seems like,
You know?
I mean, venture capitalists can invest in things that seem fantastical now. Like you could say, well, my dream, my vision is within my lifetime that we are going to Mars and I'm going to build a citadel on Mars.
There are already people who are investing in that. I mean, people
Right.
like Elon Musk is getting private equity money to do that. That is what SpaceX is that's how SpaceX is getting funded.
But if you're
presumably.
if you work at the post office, why would there's no way that in your lifetime you could reasonably see a return on that.
No, for all
So-
intents and purposes, a post office worker would be throwing that money away. Like
there's no liquidity in it.
There's no liquidity.
Not quickly anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like let's say that there was an ability for regular people to have access to private funds. You would have all of a sudden investors, like investment advisors, who are going to drool over the idea of the fees that they can charge to be able to find the best venture capital product for their clients.
Yeah.
There would be so much fraud from financial advisors and so much ripping off from financial advisors to try and get people into these funds that would really never see any money.
Now I think about
for
this.
the actual people.
Yeah.
I think about the conquistadors in the Spanish explorers, and like Ponce de Leon is looking for the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
And all of these Spanish explorers are looking for El Dorado, a city made out of gold, or the fountain of youth. And these myths then led to these like wildly destructive campaigns of rape and pillage and bioterrorism. As people are moving further and further into like unexplored lands, looking for these fake things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So having someone,
it's an El Dorado. Yeah, precisely.
Create a fountain of youth or El Dorado type goal for money, with like this Pied Piper strategy to lead people into throwing their money away into something that would ultimately be a destructive waste of time.
80% of the time it's a failure. So the people who can do venture capital have basically no use for that money anyways. Like truly, like if you are a venture capitalist, you have so much money that you could just throw away $5 or $10 million and just not even remember that you lost it.
Is this Tom Steyer's presidential campaign?
Yeah. That's right.
There's no real loss. I mean, that's like kind of the amazing thing. It's just that when you have that much money, you truly do not notice it's gone. And so like there's not any, you say, yes, I have that money tied up in an investment. Okay. So technically it's not going to affect your overall net worth. So your dick doesn't shrink. Right. And then there's a 20% chance that it could make you insanely wealthy again, because then this company grows like Facebook at an exponential rate. All of a sudden you're one of the shareholders in Facebook. And then all of a sudden you go from being a multimillionaire to a billionaire. You know,
it's
that's really how you become a billionaire, is you go into these venture capital things and you strike gold.
Yeah, this person wasn't a venture capitalist per se, but the biggest example that I always think of, and perhaps you remember it from the movie The Social Network. This is like one of the non horribly like exaggerated parts of it, where it's like, all right, Mark Zuckerberg gets 50% of it. His one Brazilian friend, who I can't remember his name, Ricardo or whatever, he gets 25%.
Big deal.
But there's those other guys who are technically still like
Justin Timberlake?
No. The other guys, well, he might be one of them, but one of the OG people who started it, where like they like, all right, you give 5%, you give 5%. It's like, well, it turns out when your company's worth what, 100 billion, 5% of that is $5 billion.
Nice.
You know?
It's a nice amount
a
of money.
nice little return there. Yeah.
So that is venture capital. Private equity is less sexy.
Yeah,
it is less sexy.
Much more boring.
It's I don't know if it's necessarily more boring, but it is certainly less sexy. It is a little bit more horrifying. It's like a horror. It is.
Why is it horrifying?
It's just a later stage in life. Okay. So
so
like think about like private venture capital is like teenager, like sex in the car for the first time, in like overlooking these cliffs, you know, something like that. Like you're about to go, you just got into, you know, Loyola Marymount. This is your number one
you're
school.
Drinking Boone's Farm. You're having a fun time.
You're gonna major in history with a minor in economics. Like you're doing great. You know, this is like peak time of your life. Private equity is you're in your late 40s. That girl you just knocked up, that you knocked up in the van, is your first wife, and you're just about to divorce your third wife. That is where that's the stage of a company where a private equity firm comes.
You're drinking a handle of whatever cheap vodka is in your town.
Yeah,
per night.
You totally tanked your dad's business that you took over, and now you went back and you got some other degree. You got a CPA, and now you're a certified financial planner, and
that's a solid gig.
It's a solid gig. That's what you do though, and you have alimony to that you owe. you have child support that you owe, and you're just alone and sad. You need a private equity firm to come in and like fix shit up with your life. Private equity is the queer eye for the straight guy of the financial sector.
Sharon's being a real bitch lately. Won't let you see the kids.
Yeah. So a private equity firm, in theory, what it does is it is like consultants, but they're also giving you a lot of money and charging you. They're giving you money. They're giving you resources. They're taking over equity and share like a certain percentage of shareholder status. They're basically like becoming management for you. And then their plan is to fix it up, do like a fixer-upper, extreme home renovation, and then sell it with their shares again. And then you make a fuck ton of money. That's the idea. Because you're
okay. So this is actually a bit of confusion. I think you just figured out, because I didn't realize for a second that both venture capital and both private equity are in the business of giving you money. But the way private equity does it is very curt and very almost hostile in a way. And not like it isn't like that in venture capital, but the feeling of it is less adventurous in that way. Private equity is like a takeover, can be a takeover situation.
So it'll go in. It's going to be 41% shareholder in a company, and the whole thing is to shake things up, move things around, introduce like new technology. And then oftentimes what that means is when it says introduce new technology, that means automate a bunch of jobs, fire a bunch of people, make it more of tech or pivot to tech essentially, or pivot to video or whatever it does. Something that's going to be like quick, high, a quick way for it to like be more profitable, and then sell it again and have the owner make money.
This school has way too many teachers. We've got we've got 5 fifth grades, and we have 5 fifth grade teachers. What if we just had one teacher on a video camera and we played that for all of the 5 classes? That way we only have one teacher who we're paying a salary to, and we've gotten rid of the rest.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a really great tech innovation. We're also now going to trademark that, and we're going to have this teacher and sell that tech idea curriculum to schools throughout the district. And so every school in the district will have the same 5th grade teacher on video.
Yeah.
It's like you thought we were.
That's exactly right.
You thought that we were playing with hardball when we just brought in Mrs. Anderson and she had a little bit too much the previous night, and we're gonna watch this movie while she takes a quick nap in the front. Nah, you haven't even seen what we can do yet, dog. This is gonna be crazy.
And so the whole time they're also charging the company a fee. So the thing, like, I really do. There's a lot of overlap between a private equity firm and a consultant. A consultant takes consulting fees. They go in. They create economic conditions ripe for democracy in Kabul. A consultant will go in and fix bread prices in Canada. And like a private equity firm has a similar mission in that they are to optimize the efficiency in such a short burst of energy, such that it attracts someone else who doesn't know how the industry works, someone else who is rich and dumb like them, to buy the product, to say that's a great idea. So going back to the school example, okay, so you're a private equity firm is going into this charter school because it's a charter school in this example, and you're gonna say we're gonna have one teacher for all of 5th grade and one guy who is also a private equity investor, who's also a capitalist. I mean, just in a technical sense of the word. I'm not just trying to be honest. He's a capitalist, and he says that's a great idea. What an innovation! And he has no idea what schools are. He hasn't ever been to a school before.
Exactly.
He's actually 3 years old, and he just inherited all of his money.
He's a boss baby.
He's a boss baby, and the boss baby's like, yes, let's do this, and he buys that charter school from this other private equity investor, and the principal / owner of the charter school makes money off of that purchase as well.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we lost 4 teachers, and none of the kids are going to learn anything. None of them are going to get into USC or none of them are going to get
Loyola
into
Marymount.
or Loyola Marymount.
Yeah.
None of them are going to get into SUNY Purchase.
Yeah.
And the school tanks. That is what happens very, very, very frequently, is that none of the students are going to pass their boards. You know, what is it in New York City? They have the school exams. None of that, something like so.
In Washington State, we had
exams.
the WASL, the Washington Assessment of Student Learning.
We had the Iowa student learning one.
Yeah,
which is
those standardized tests are usually made by some weird consortium in Ohio,
like
which
that.
is probably owned by a private equity firm. Actually,
So, are you saying that there's no good comes out of private equity firms?
No, there is there are examples of restructuring where that works. Like there are I mean, there are times where you could imagine where if you are a company that's stuck in your ways, you have a very specific business model, you guys haven't gotten a computer at your retail store, something like that, and you have no real interest in doing that because you're making just enough to survive. But also, you have canny instincts as to how this industry works, and you're just barely trucking by. You get a private equity investor. These people are cosmopolitan, wealthy, urbane investors who understand technology. They can go in. They say, "Hey, look, man, like you don't have to have you actually don't have to use a private accountant at every single cashier. You can actually get this computer system, and you can fire all of your accountants that are at all of your cash registers, and you don't need to do that at this grocery store anymore. You don't need.
Yeah.
It's like So imagine some ridiculous thing where you have to have a man whose entire job is just to count the pennies and sort them by year. Something like
Yeah.
and sort them by year and by looks. You know what I mean? Like there's some firms that may need an update, and the only way to get an update really without changing ownership, in a real way, is to get a private equity firm, or you hire a consultant. And you hire a consultant to come in and say, "Hey, charge me a consultant fee. I'm gonna make sure you guys get these new iPads, and you're gonna do this." Or you get a private equity firm, give me 40% equity, and I'm going to charge you a fee, and I'm going to put these iPads in for you, and then I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to make you a bunch of money. So a private equity firm is kind of like a consultant, but also gets they also play the stocks at the same time. They play the net worth of it at the same time.
They have a motivation, an incentive to maximize the profits of the company because they don't have a set fee they're getting. They're getting a percentage of growth.
They're getting both.
Yeah.
They're getting both a set fee and they're getting the percentage of growth. So even if it tanks, they're still going to get that fee no matter what.
I actually have an anecdote that I think is very, very germane to this. I will not say where I used to work just because I don't know where they are in their own restructuring, but I worked at a college bookstore when I was younger. And this was a very, very inefficient bookstore, it sounds exactly like what David was describing, where we had many managers who basically had these fuck all jobs that were not relevant to any kind of growth. And I'm playing a bit of a devil's advocate because I'm just saying this is just for money in this case. One of my managers, he would literally spend 5 to 6 hours every Monday and Tuesday making Costco, quote unquote, Costco runs, where he would go to Costco.
Hell yeah, dude.
He would go to Costco and then buy the certain supplies for the bookstore. And we're all just thinking to ourselves, what the fuck is Brian doing at Costco for 5 to 6 hours? It doesn't take 5 to 6 hours to buy 100 bags of the tiny Doritos.
Dude, the windows are rolled down,
Yeah.
and he's got his hand out the window, and
Yeah.
he's doing the wave, and he's catching the air.
Yeah, and
he's listening to sports radio.
Yeah, and then we got bought out by a much larger conglomerate, not private equity, but a conglomerate that dealt with other bookstores. And right quick that all those cushy jobs, all the weird Cheryl in HR who's just I'm happy to be here, but nobody's really pissed off. So my job is I'm basically doing nothing here. They all left. And I think this actually kind of ties in to the whole idea of whether or not, how evil it is. Because I would assume that most private equity is evil And I think it just has a predilection to do that because it's a very fine line between restructuring and making things more efficient and human misery. Yeah.
Well, I think that the difference is just the incentive structures of private equity. Give private equity no actual reason to improve the company for more than the one period in which it is valued highly at the moment that it is sold. A consultant is at least has to rely on its reputation.
Yeah.
That is the only thing. The only currency is its social currency of consulting. You know, Deloitte saved whatever, McKinsey, overthrew this government, whatever. And
yeah, we're not going to say who overthrew what.
but a private equity firm really only needs to get its fees and to have it be valuable for a very short period of time for one very stupid buyer. Yeah, that's all it really needs. There's an example. There's a New York Times article called "How Private Equity Buried Payless Shoe Source," and Payless has almost completely closed down. They got bought by a private equity firm, and they had a big. They were expanding into Latin America, but this private equity firm. This is a pretty good anecdote from the top of the article. Okay. The financiers who had taken over Payless Shoe Source didn't have much experience selling low-priced footwear, but they had big ideas about how things ought to be done. One was capitalizing on enthusiasm for the 2018 World Cup in Latin American countries, where the company had hundreds of stores.
Oh, yeah.
When they saw an opportunity to buy 1 million pairs of World Cup branded flip-flops, the money men turned shoe sellers overruled the mid-level supply managers at corporate headquarters in Topeka, who had pointed out a couple of problems.
Okay.
First, the sandals wouldn't arrive on store shelves until after the World Cup was over.
All right. Okay. I like this strategy so far.
These sound like these World Cup sandals are all going to end up in third world countries, like as charity gifts.
Yeah.
Second, they were branded with the flags of countries like Mexico and Argentina, countries where Payless didn't have any stores.
Oh, I love these fools. They're great.
So ultimately, the flip-flops had to be unloaded at steep markdowns, one of the many missteps at a company that by early 2019 would liquidate its stores in the United States and enter its second bankruptcy in rapid succession, putting 16,000 people out of work. Oof. It emerged from bankruptcy last month with its third ownership group in 4 years. So there are examples where a purchase of a company, where a new management of a company, where these things can be good. I think that what private equity is a symptom of is the presumption that just because you are... it is the symptom of generic intelligence equals specific intelligence.
Yeah. Or like it's specific in a field.
Precisely. It is like you... you were able to climb this one corporate ladder, ergo you can do anything. You were able to get a good SAT score and go to a good school.
You speak 4 languages, therefore you're probably qualified to become president.
Yeah, stuff like that. Precisely. There are so many subtweets in this episode right now against people who judge. It's so intense.
Yeah, it's great.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's great. Count along at home, folks.
Yeah, and I think that that's really kind of one of the like moral deficiencies of private equity is that they assume that because they are urbane, because they are wealthy, that they can tell a Topeka, Kansas shoe company that has survived 40 years actually how to run its shoe stores.
Yeah.
And when these people in Topeka they know how to run a cheap shoe store. It was doing okay. It just needed to like update a couple things and like put it in iPads basically.
Yeah, you basically just needed a smart team to come in and make it so the Wi-Fi password was locked or the Wi-Fi network.
Yeah, so apparently the Payless they hired a private equity firm before they had ever even put Wi-Fi in the stores. Like Payless was so far behind, they did not have Wi-Fi in the stores.
I love it, man.
Yeah, I mean, and so they tried to assemble like these. They tried to put iPads in the stores. They tried to fire a lot of employees and have it only be like on automatic checkout and all that sort of stuff. When Payless had already first off kind of innovated the idea of having fewer employees at a shoe store because their whole business model is put the boxes of the shoes in front of the store That way you don't have to get employees to constantly be going to the front and the back.
Like, do you see the size? Do they have your size? All right. Look, if you don't see the size, it's not there.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the innovation.
That's the Payless innovation.
We all remember going into a Payless shoe store, and it just kind of looked like a mausoleum, but instead of crypts, where a body's inside, it's just shoe boxes. It's like you built the store out of shoe boxes,
and it was
a great
full,
idea.
And it was full of life.
Well, I don't
like
know.
a mausoleum.
I don't know if it was life that was, but it was definitely making some lady in Wichita her shoe buying experience a little easier.
Look, and we probably don't. Yeah, and look, and we probably don't want to make this glorify Payless shoe stores, because probably they put a lot of local shoe stores out of business back in the 90s when all these small town or 80s when all these small town economies were totally getting destroyed by the mall world.
Well, this reminds me of Stranger Things. If you watch Stranger Things, it is the destruction of Main Street, and the mall is the thing that's taking over.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then in the 80s, and now I'm driving around the country and there's just these ghost malls because Amazon has killed all the malls.
Yeah, and we need to figure out what our interdimensional hate being will be that will crush this mall and these private equity firms.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that hate being is Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
No, but look, there's a lot of people who are speculating about the presidential race, and really only two candidates have taken a serious approach to private equity. One of them is Bernie. One of them is Elizabeth Warren. Bernie has publicly stated that he would pass a law just outright banning private equity firms from owning hospitals.
Good start.
Pretty good start. He just says the business model of private equity is fundamentally incompatible with a hospital and cannot ever and should not ever, and just banning it from the entire sector.
Right, because I can see the incentive there is to use an analogy. Let's say I have a rusty old car with a terrible engine.
Yeah.
And the private equity firm could come in and say, okay, well, let's just slap a fresh coat of paint on that. And the first person to walk by that is willing to pay the price for this.
Mm-hmm.
It is a grift. It really is. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, of course.
But that is kind of the crazy thing about private equity, is just how frequently it seems that a private equity purchase after the private equity firm has gone in is actually completely overvaluing the company itself.
I have a question about one of Elizabeth Warren's things, and maybe you'll answer it in a second.
Sure.
Does she include any kind of legislation or proposal where a private equity firm would be required to sign some sort of disclosure that says you are sort of financially responsible for this sale 10 years or 15 years, up to 15 years after its sale, so it incentivizes you to not just pump and dump it?
Is it pumping up?
Yeah. Does she do anything like that, or does
Let's go through her plans.
Them. Okay, yeah.
So Elizabeth Warren has a Medium post about it. You got to go straight to the belly of the beast, and that is medium.com/
It's right in the middle.
Right in the belly. So she would her plan would transform the private equity industry and end what she calls it legalized looting, with a comprehensive set of legal changes, including 1, putting private equity firms on the hook for the debts of companies they buy, making them responsible for the downside of their investments so that they only make money if the companies they control flourish. Danny, you read the room.
Oh,
you
my
figured
God.
it out, man.
I did it.
You did it. So
that sounds reasonable.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Sounds like she
reasonable.
has a plan.
Pretty reasonable. Number 2, holding private equity firms responsible for certain pension obligations of the companies they buy, so that workers have a better shot of getting the retirement funds they earn. One of the things that Warren gets exactly right is that this is very much a wage theft scheme. Okay? Private equity firms, like so many other aspects of the financial sector, is about extracting wages and wealth from the working class and bringing it into the managerial class. And private equity does that because they have no obligation. Like an owner of a company, there's a lot of, you can say whatever Marxist theory you want, but at the end of the day, they know that the producers of labor are the source of their wealth. A private equity firm has a separate relationship from management that is independent of the owners, and they are doing their relationship is really more as like a third party intervener, status, and so they don't really have a obligation to the employees in any real material way, even when they're the minority shareholder. So what she's saying is that instead of doing what private equity firms oftentimes will do, which is just extract pension money from like these like 401ks of these workers or things like that, they'll have to basically say you have an obligation to these pensioners to basically you have to hold them responsible, which is I don't know what that means. That could be a fiduciary responsibility, that could be some sort of obligation to ensure maximum returns, whatever. Make sure that they don't basically eliminate the practice in private equity where they are just like sucking dry pension funds.
Can we get another Bernie proposal? I'm very curious to see if he has another some more hot fires.
See, this is the thing about Bernie is that he doesn't have them. Like Warren has 6 more bullet points.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find any other things on Bernie's
because
proposals.
Bernie's just like, you can't, like he's like it's going to be illegal.
Yeah,
and Warren's
it's basically going to be illegal.
And Warren's looking for like, well, what are the harm reduction extra rules that I can put into play?
Yeah,
because she recognizes the moments when private equity works, So let's keep going with her things. There's a few more we should try and get through. Eliminating the ability of private equity firms to pay themselves huge monitoring fees and limiting their ability to pay out dividends to line their own pockets. Basically, there's that thing that we talked about, like you cannot charge excessive fees. She would create some law that says private equity firms cannot charge excessive fees. Monitoring fees shall be illegal, or fees shall be reasonable. That'll probably be the line in the whatever legislation she crafts. Change the tax rules so private equity firms don't get sweetheart tax rates on all the debt they put on the companies they buy. Modifying bankruptcy rules so that when companies go bust, workers have a better shot at getting pay and benefits, and executives can't pocket special bonuses. Basically, when bankruptcy happens, there is a predetermined list of priorities of who gets paid first.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So when any company, if you go into Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 or Chapter 9, depending on what sort of entity you are, there's a list of priorities as who gets dibs first.
On the carcass.
On the liquidation. What vulture gets to go first, and on who gets the couch, who gets the real estate,
who gets the liver,
who gets the liver.
Yeah.
And so the basically,
carrion, who the first is the carrions, then you get the scavengers, the hyenas, then the bugs. You know?
Bankruptcy court is like those fast videos of the whale carcass at the bottom of the ocean being decomposed.
being picked
You guys ever seen those?
Yeah, juicy.
Those are so cool.
Really fun. I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
The next one, preventing lenders and investment managers from making reckless loans to private equity-owned companies already swimming in debt and then passing along the danger to the market by requiring them to retain some of the risk. Does that make sense?
It does. I would say this about the whole thing is like, I understand some of what you're saying, David, and I can process it with little bits of help just through context and how it works. But I will say, and I don't think it's any surprise that like everybody on this podcast is a big fan of Bernard, the good one, and what he's doing.
Madoff,
and I cannot, and it's so effective to just say no more private equity in hospitals. Like you said that, and I'm just like, oh, I remember that. Like he's talking about like a weird esoteric part of finance, but when you say the big bad men with the money do not get to go in the hospital, it's different than we will be changing subclause B section 52 so it is now this. So it's like, I respect Elizabeth Warren for getting into the fucking muck and the weeds and like really going into that, but she's not really addressing it in a meaningful like way that normal people can understand,
Precisely. And if your allegiance ultimately, if you're doing this for normal people, right?
Yeah.
Like what's interesting is that Elizabeth Warren uses the deep knowledge of highly educated, very, very otherwise very, very wealthy people, and has this deep knowledge, but is then trying to convey it to normal people.
The arcane knowledge of the elves.
Ultimately, like what we have said on this podcast before is like, this knowledge shouldn't exist. Like there is too much, like there is too much finance the financial sector is too big. There needs to be less of this. And until we have an economy that is actually where there's a reasonable living a life of dignity for like working class and even the middle class, like you can't have this much financialization. And to double down on the rules and refine them even more is both in some ways like really fucking cool and really empowering, but is also reinforcing the mindset that these rules matter.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Look, all right. We love The Lord of the Rings. We love The Hobbit. We do not need to read the Silmarillion. All right. That second age shit is bullshit. Okay. I don't need to hear about how Sauron built the ring.
It's kind of like, it just reminds me of like playing tag as a little kid in a schoolyard, and then it turns into freeze tag, but then there's also base, and then somebody hops on base, and then the person who's it is like, okay, black magic 1 2 3, and then you have to hop off base because they've now created a new rule, which is like the black magic rule.
Yeah.
And then the teacher comes out and is like, wait, what are you guys playing? And it's like, we're playing no looksy double sharks and minnows freeze tag with black magic and 2 bases.
Yeah.
So it just keeps compounding into
it keeps
this
compounding. Yeah. I see that.
It keeps reinforcing the idea that there should be a base. All right.
And there's there's 2 more, and these are a little bit more generic. Empowering investors like pension funds with better information. Okay, so about the private equity investments, they're requiring more disclosures. Okay, the last one is closing the carried interest loophole that lets firm managers pay ultra low tax rates on the money they loot. Okay, those are all the things that she says. They're actually really precise and really good. It's worth us noting that I think that she does school Bernard on this specific thing. As far as I can tell, Bernie does not have as much stuff. But again, Bernie is playing a different rhetorical game. He's not using populist rhetoric and making it more palatable to professionals. He is just speaking directly to working people. And that is just a different rhetorical strategy.
Perhaps, Elizabeth Warren, perhaps there's a place for you in Bernard's cabinet. Maybe we can figure it out. I'd love to see you walking around in like, a corner of the sector doing all kinds of crazy shit. That'd be great, But I don't know, man.
As long as she's not in charge of Medicare for all, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, no fucking carrying birds in the hospital. Still remember it. So, yeah.
Carrying birds in the hospital?
That's what a vulture is. Yeah, a vulture is a carrying bird. A condor. Yeah.
I was like, there's so many metaphors. God.
Yeah.
Crows eat roadkill too.
Dude, crows are so smart.
So how about that?
They're the smartest birds in the world.
I love how they bring you gifts. They bring you gifts if you're nice to crows. They'll give you like a shiny thing.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. I mean, they're considering getting into coding.
Yeah. Dude, you gotta watch. My boss, he owns a couple pigeons. He lets them roam, but like they live in his house. You gotta watch. The birds are. I'm here for the birds, man.
And you know who the birds love?
Who they love?
Bernie.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
That's right. That's right. Here we go.
That was a full circle.
Yeah, I love it.
For Ponzi Scream, I'm David Bradley Eisenberg.
I'm Danny Feltz.
And this is Gabe Pacheco.
Good night, guys.
Watch out for the birds.
Love
Ciao.
you.
Clean your eyes.